Yo, what's going on YouTube? And welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte. We are continuing our lineup prediction series for the opening night rosters for the 2021-2022 NHL season. And today, we're heading out to the Western Conference, and in particular, we're heading up to Western Canada. We're taking a look today at your Edmonton Oilers up in Alberta. We're going to be looking at the forward lines, the defensive lines, and the goaltending. And I really like what the Oilers look like this year. Ken Holland, one of the busier GMs last year in terms of the most money spent, most transactions made. I really like what the Oilers did. And I think there's still room for improvement in between the pipes goaltending. But other than that, I really like what they did to make, because the thing is, some of the moves they made, right, they add a guy. Now that means, well, that guy that was there now moves somewhere else. And that guy that moves there now moves somewhere else as well. And you'll maybe get the pattern of what I'm talking about as we go along. But looking at that forward group, you could really see how different they look with some of the moves they made. So looking at your top six forward lines, Zach Hyman, Connor McDavid, and Jesse Puljujarvi. Puljujarvi coming back to the NHL last year was huge. Ken Holland didn't bend. He made sure that, listen, you want to come back here, you can. You got to kind of fit under our terms. He's going to get another opportunity to play with McDavid, in my opinion. And I think that actually worked out pretty well at points last year. But now you got Zach Hyman, who I was talking about. You add a guy, now it allows somebody else to slide down the lineup to play maybe where they're more suited. Draisaitl. So with that, you've got Hyman, who's more the 200-foot player, the guy that's going to get the puck to McDavid, to Puljujarvi, to maybe move the forward, the play forward, get a change of possession so their team can score more goals. McDavid, the playmaking guy, and obviously Puljujarvi, who they're hoping can net more goals. And I think there was some frustration from McDavid to Puljujarvi last year. So that could end up being a good thing for that. I mean, I remember a couple years ago, I think it was 2019 when the St. Louis Blues won the Stanley Cup. In the beginning of the season, they went on a really bad run, losing game after game. Doug Armstrong was talking about blowing the team up. They got into some altercations and fights during the season. They end up winning the Stanley Cup that year. So there is reason to believe that maybe some of that animosity leads to more success. And I think that's what the Oilers are hoping for. Not always. I do want to preface that, but it can lead to some success. It means that the guys care. I think Puljujarvi and McDavid, very competitive individuals that want to win. And I think that's really what it comes down to. So, with that said, look at the second line. I really like the second line. Some of you may not agree with this, but I have Kailer Yamamoto on his second year. Again, by the time this video goes out, hopefully he's signed by Ken Holland, but by training camp, he will definitely be signed. I'm very confident in that. Leon Draisaitl. This is what I was talking about, because Draisaitl has always been playing on the top line with McDavid. They need to put some skill with McDavid, so they compromise their second line to allow Draisaitl to keep McDavid going and happy. Now they don't have to do that so much with Zach Hyman there. Yes, he's not necessarily the speed of Draisaitl, but he's going to be able to get the puck to Draisaitl in terms of their own end, maybe back checking and forechecking. So now Draisaitl, he centers his own line. Probably I would argue, the best second line center in the NHL, probably above Evgeny Malkin at this point in Pittsburgh. So McDavid and Draisaitl, that two-headed monster is just unbelievable. And now you have to worry about both those lines. Again, in terms of matchups, that's going to be very difficult for other teams to match up against. And this is the new name. And they moved out Ethan Bear, a right shot, second, third pairing defenseman, to bring in Warren Foegele. I really like Warren Foegele. I remember watching him actually in Bridgeport when he was with the Charlotte Checkers, playing the Bridgeport Sound Tigers. I really liked Warren Foegele. He actually scored a goal or two that game. He played really well. He was on that tight run in the AHL. He tight-roped with the NHL a little bit, got sent back down, motivated, and then he ends up making the roster in Carolina the next season. I really like Warren Foegele. He wasn't going to get an opportunity in Carolina. I just think with the emergence of guys like Marty Necas, and now they brought in Jesperi Kotkaniemi, I don't think that was the plan when they traded him at the time. But bring in Warren Foegele, a guy that can, kind of like Hyman, add some speed, add some grit, and just that power. And I think with guys like Draisaitl, Yamamoto, who maybe might get pushed around a little bit, Foegele can be that guy in front of the net that can just tip pucks in, maybe catch a deflection, or even catch the puck in front of the net with a rebound off the goalie's pad or something. That's what Warren Foegele can do. I think he's going to do really well this season. I'm really excited to see Foegele in this lineup. I liked him in Carolina. He's going to get more of an opportunity in Edmonton, and maybe even some power play time as well, which I think would be huge. Now, the third line gets interesting. I actually made some adjustments. I originally had Ryan Nugent-Hopkins on the wing with Leon Draisaitl on the second line. No. We're going to make this a stacked center core. You got McDavid, Draisaitl, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins as your top three centers. That's probably the best in the NHL, you could argue, and I don't think it's really that close. You got Ryan McLeod on the wing, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins down the middle, and Drew Shore. I know, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins' name is too long. I just put RNH. It was too much to put in that little box there for you guys, but I really like what we've seen from Nuge, and I think he has the capability. Yes, can he play second line center? Absolutely. But in Edmonton, with this team as stacked as it is, you could play him on the third line, and he could still play with pretty good players. I think you'd rather be playing with Yamamoto, Foegele, or Puljujarvi. But Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and a guy like McLeod, he had some mitigating success last season, as well as Devin Shore, who I think they want to see more success from him. So he will be on that line as well. The fourth line, you got Josh Archibald, Kyle Turris, and Zach Kassian. Now, I think some people would say maybe Turris shouldn't be the fourth line center there. He doesn't really fit the bill like Archibald and Kassian, those, really the big line. And Turris doesn't necessarily fit that. You could argue Devin Shore could be that fourth line center. I would completely agree with you. I'm going to make that change right now. I'm going to put Devin Shore on the fourth line alongside Archibald and Kassian. Just keep the big boy line. And who would go alongside that other side, on the other side there? You know what? We're going to have a little shift here. Kyle Turris had a really bad season last year. I'm going to put Brendan Perlini on that third line to play alongside RNH and McLeod. I think that's a much better line. Perlini just hasn't really developed into what they had hoped. He was in Detroit. He was obviously with the Coyotes. I think he's going to get another opportunity in Edmonton just because of the lack of depth, which we're going to get to. You also have on depth now, you got Kyle Turris and Ryan, who I don't remember who that actually is. But Ryan is there as well, whoever the last name is. I apologize for that. So that's your forward group, which I think is really solid down the middle until you get to the third and fourth line wingers. I think it is lacking a little bit. Again, Kassian had a good season last year, but again, that was playing with McDavid at points. He's not going to do that this year. And Archibald, I mean, he's a good grinder, power forward, fighter guy, but other than that, he's not really going to add much skill to your lineup. With that said, let's take a look at the defense. The defense had some changes as well. Now, for the first pairing, it's going to stay the same. You got Darnell Nurse and Tyson Barrie coming back. Nurse signed a big extension that kicks in next year, and Tyson Barrie signed an extension that kicked in this summer. So, good stuff there. You also got a second pairing that looks fairly different. No Oscar Klefbom, no Ethan Bear. It is now led by Duncan Keith. Duncan Keith comes in. Really interesting change up there. So hopefully he can emerge as a top four pairing defenseman again. He really didn't have that potential the last 2 or 3 years now in Chicago. So expecting a lot from him. But maybe being close to the family helps him in that regard. He'll be playing alongside Evan Bouchard. There's arguments to be made that Cody Ceci could be that second pairing defenseman. I think he had a great season in Pittsburgh last year, especially with the coaching staff in Pittsburgh, but I don't think he's that great of a defenseman, and that may show during training camp. I think he'll play alongside Evan Bouchard. Third pairing, you got William Legason and Cody Ceci. They paid Ceci a lot of money to be a third pairing defenseman, but that's where he'll sit. And I think there was some emergence from Legason last year. He's been playing in Bakersfield a little while. He's going to get a crack at the lineup this year. Now, the defense here, depth, looks interesting because you've got Slater Kukoc and Chris Russell returning. Interesting stuff there. Again, obviously, Russell had some issues. Slater Kukoc has been bouncing around the league too. So hopefully some of these guys get some... I wouldn't be surprised if they get a chance on that left shot. I think Cody Ceci's kind of locked there because he's just making too much money to keep him on the scratch pad, but he may end up there. And you also have Oscar Klefbom, who we likely won't see this season. He's on long-term injured reserve. He's been really struggling with that shoulder stuff, and it's not looking good on his career. So we'll see what happens, but I really liked Oscar Klefbom. He was a really bright spot of the Oilers during the oil change back in the day, and man, he just has not been able to catch a break over the past really 2 or 3 years. And then in between the pipes, you have Mike Smith returning, and I'm going to have Alex Stalock as the depth goalie. I think they're going to send Koskinen to the AHL and just bury that contract as much as they can. He's just not a good goalie, and I think they have to realize that it's not going to work. They're going to go with Smith and Stalock as their goaltending tandem. With that said, the Oilers, I mean, there are still holes on this team, for sure. Depth-wise, I don't like some of this stuff, but it's going to give an opportunity for guys like Warren Fogle and Puljujarvi in the top 6, which I think we're going to get the most out of them this season, and I think this is a really big year for those 2 wingers in particular in the top 6. But obviously your center core, Draisaitl, McDavid, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, that's probably the best in the league. I can't think of a better top 3 center core. But defense is a big question because they made some interesting moves this summer, bringing in Duncan Keith, moving out guys like Ethan Bear. But I think for the most part, obviously losing Adam Larson. But with that said, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you see the Edmonton Oilers as a playoff team next year? And I think some of the moves that they've made are definitely interesting. But the other big question, who should be on that second line alongside Draisaitl and Yamamoto? Should it be Warren Fogle? Should it be RNH? Let me know down below. And if you guys like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to see the latest news around the NHL, more videos just like this one, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and an even bigger subscribe down below. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you again next time.